Hi, folks. Welcome to our Learning Labs. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes before we get going. I'm happy to see you all today. We're going to be using some AI tooling to work with Chainguard Containers. I wanted to share some of the things that I've been working on to kind of support this workflow. And I'm going to be working with Claude specifically, but I will kind of gesture towards some other AI tools that you could use too. This is a learning lab on AI-assisted migration to Chainguard Containers. I'm Lisa Taliaferri. It is February 19th. I want to give a little bit of an introduction about me. So I was an AI skeptic, and I turned into less of an AI skeptic thanks to some of my teammates here at Chainguard. A year ago, I know Claude is about a year old now. A year ago, if I could predict whether I would be doing a learning lab like this, I would probably have predicted no. But I actually do have a long history in what we used to call machine learning. So I like Python, I like open source. I did a lot of work on with machine learning tools in the pre-Claude era. I like software security and documentation, as you might suspect. I like libraries, and by that I mean the old school book libraries, and also libraries as in packages. And we have Chainguard Libraries product, although we'll be talking about that in the next learning lab. And I also like old school photography, like daguerreotypes and tintypes. And here is a tintype that I made a few months ago of a jack-o'-lantern. So we're going to be talking about some AI tooling for Chainguard. And as somebody who has a background in documentation and kind of helping developers learn, I have kind of discovered that because we have a lot of robust documentation and tutorials and other developer related resources here at Chainguard, this is actually Chainguard Academy, which is available at edu.chainguard.dev, is actually a foundation of quite a bit of the AI migration tooling that I worked on. So I kind of started here and kept going. You could read more about all of the kind of endpoints and AI optimizations I did in this Chainguard Unchained blog, and I'll give you the link at the end when I'm done talking. And the first thing I kind of wanted to talk through is that I'm going to be using things like MCP servers, Claude plugins, and skills. And the skills are something that are available like universally for a few other different AI assistants. But you could actually do this in like a much more scoped way. Like you don't necessarily have to kind of go through every single thing to kind of start taking advantage of some of the things that we have set up for using Chainguard and AI tooling. So on every single page of Chainguard Academy, we have this copy markdown for LLMs. And if there's like a doc that you found that you think is helpful, or like say you're doing something and ChatGPT, Cursor, Claude, whoever it is not really helping you, but you like do like a quick web search, find a doc that you need, you could just copy this in to give some extra context. And that's something that's pretty quick and easy. There's also the repo, and I find it really helpful to be in the repo for like any kind of AI work I'm doing. So if I am working on a feature to something, like being in that repo, like that it's like obviously has a lot of context, but you could also just be sitting in like our edu repo, which is an open source repo, and you'll get like a lot of context there. And then one other thing I wanted to show. So this is Chainguard Academy, and I'll drop this link in here now since I'm here, and then I'll give you the GitHub link as well. So the Chainguard Academy site, we also have we have the LLMs .text, and this one is kind of a short one, but we also have the LLMs LLM's full.txt, which is a very long one. And this collates a lot of resources. And this is something that you could also just sort of use out of the box without kind of leveraging plugins, skills, or anything like that. So this is the AI documentation bundle. You could pull it down as a tarball. You could pull it down as a container. And this collates a lot of our resources, not exclusive to Chainguard Academy, some other resources too. So that is something you could use to give Claude or whoever a lot of additional context for when you're working with Chainguard, and it will help guide you in the right direction, even if you're not using these other tools that I'm going to talk about. And then I also wanted to share some other kind of related resources we have that are for migration. So we have the DFC, which is our Dockerfile converter tool. It's this repo is the CLI tool for this. And I think, this is a very nice tool that is really useful for doing like a one-to-one Dockerfile conversion to Chainguard or to other containers too. I think like at scale, you may want to use the MCP server instead. But we also, my colleague Erica made this very nice UI for DFC, and I could show you pretty quickly a example. So this is something that we did for Valentine's Day, finding your container's perfect match. I will stick in a Docker file and find my match. It shows me this, that it would convert it to a Chainguard base. And then I could download the converted Docker file, and I don't lose the original Docker file, which I think is something that's nice about the DFC tool. And then on top of this, I created the DFC MCP server. So this will help a little bit more with doing some scale migrations. So this is something that you could load into GitHub Copilot, into Claude, into Cursor, anything that will take an MCP server. And then you could use this like as part of your migration work. And then just going back to that documentation bundle, we also have MCP server support. So this is kind of building off of that LLM's full.txt / tarball / container. This is set up as an MCP. It has a little bit more context as well, and it's for working with things like, I understand that for like GitHub Copilot, this works pretty well. And this is the foundation for the Claude plugins that I'm going to show you today as well. So again, let's go to, I'll just show you this repo again. So this is the Claude plugins repo, and this is what we're going to be walking through for the rest of the demo today. And it has a lot of different resources and different ways of kind of working with AI, and some of them will be easy to use for ChatGPT, Cursor, GitHub Copilot, and some of them are a little more Claude specific. For this learning lab, I decided to just focus on Claude, just so that we're not switching too much context throughout the learning lab. But if you want to follow along with a different AI assistant, I would love to hear how you find it. And the other thing I would say as a caveat is that these are kind of community tooling for like the developer community. This is something that is experimental. There's a lot of things that we could continue to build on here, and I would also love to hear feedback in the chat or after this session. I will share I guess LinkedIn is the best way to contact, or I'm also on Blue Sky as well. So I will be moving over to the terminal now. Okay. I will try to make it large. So right now I am in this the Claude plugin repo, and we kind of talked through some of this original stuff, right? Like the LLM's text, the LLM's full.text. There's like the static extraction we could do for the Docker containers for the MCP server and the Docs server. And now I'm going to go through the Claude Code plugins setup. So these are community plugins. If you're not familiar with like the plugin ecosystem, like there are some like Anthropic plugins, and then there's a bunch of other plugins that are done by the community. I recommend before doing this that you trust where you're getting these from. So this Chainguard demo, you could verify that this is official Chainguard. Oh gosh, I should have updated this repo. We need to do HTTPS. Okay. So I think the README might be up to date, but I'll make sure this is up to date later. So first you add the marketplace, and then you add the two plugins. So I have these. So these two plugins are based on those two container bundles that I was talking about. So the Chainguard Docs is that big Chainguard Docs MCP, and then the Chainguard Code Gen is based on the Dockerfile converter tool. So that's built off of the DFC MCP Chainguard container. And then what we're going to do is just kind of make sure that Claude is kind of getting the context that we need. So I just want to ask Claude, what Chainguard images are available for Python, and can you tell me the difference between latest and latest dev? So what I'm looking for here is like, I want to, are there different versions of Python containers available through Chainguard? And I want to get some information about the latest and latest dev. So at Chainguard, our latest container is a distroless container image. So that means that there's it's kind of very minimal. There's no shell, there's no package manager. And then on the latest /dev side, that's our the development image, that's the builder image. So they're both very minimal containers, like generally speaking, compared to other container images that are out there. But the latest dev has a little bit more, and it's maybe a little bit more what you might expect from a container image. So I want to see if Claude gets it. And I am personally a fan of all these like gerunds that Claude does while Claude is thinking. So nucleating. I like when sometimes I get a bunch of dancing ones, like sock hopping, waltzing. Sometimes I get a bunch of cooking ones. So let's see. What do we get? So Chainguard offers Python images at cgr.dev Chainguard Python. It tells me there's Python, latest dev, and then version specific tags. And it gives me some of that, what I was explaining to you. So no shell, no APK, smaller, minimal. So even this one, it says it's larger, but it's still pretty small. So maybe that could be a little bit better, room for improvement. And it does pretty well. It recommends a multi-stage pattern, which is something that we do recommend on the docs a lot, although, latest dev will get you most of the way there too. Let's see, we could ask maybe one other question. So maybe we could ask what Chainguard does to manage CVEs. Now is architecting. Maybe this is a complex request. Okay, here we go. All right, it gave me a pretty big response. It took a little bit longer than I would have liked. So what does Chainguard do? Minimal attack surface. Talks about our Linux undistro Wolfie and Chainguard OS. Daily rebuilds and rapid patching. Our zero CVE goal. Our supply chain security. Our build tool chain, which is APKO and melange, and then our image variants. The FIPS one is something I probably would have liked to see with the Python versions as well. So it's nice that it comes up here. But that's something maybe I would dig into a little bit more with Claude next time. So now I want to try to do some simple migration. So if you want to follow along, just so that I'm not switching my screen all the time, here are the different Dockerfile examples that I have set up for us to just kind of dig into this a little bit more. And we are going to start with a simple migration of advisory API. So we want to see that it's moving from a Python 3.11 Slim to Chainguard Containers. And so we are in this Chainguard Claude plugins repo, and I want to say that we want to migrate this examples advisory API Dockerfile to Chainguard. Oh, I guess we would say Chainguard. So a lot of the time when you're working with Chainguard, you want to put in what organization you're in. And it's actually, yeah, so it's actually pulling in the migrating Dockerfiles skill in, which is kind of jumping ahead, but that's okay. I guess that is the risk of having everything together in one repo. And I will show you once we get through some of the terminal stuff, like all the different things that are in the repo a little bit more. So we have the different plugins which are built on the MCP servers. We have the different skills, and then we also have a config file for your desktop, and which would also work with other tools like ChatGPT and Copilot. All right, so let's see what is happening here. So we have, so Claude says that these are the preferences. So it's actually going ahead and writing preferences down for me. So if you go ahead and say that you have a different organization, like, I would be interested to hear if Chainguard or if Claude just starts putting those in. So what if it's Chainguard, the registry you use, and if you care about FIPS or not. And then what we see with the diff is that it's moving from the Python 3.11 Slim that you could pull down from Docker Hub to CGR dev Chainguard Python 3.11 dev. The entry point we have change, we have user change, and then we actually don't want to overwrite it. Can you... Yeah, so make sure you know if you want to just overwrite it, because unlike DFC, Claude might have a mind of its own. Right, so now we have this new file here. And then we see the original, we see the Chainguard equivalent dev required because of run commands. I think let's just see, can you think about making this into a multi-stage build? Or do you have another recommendation to get to the latest? And this, I'm using the Sonnet model here. I didn't try it with Haiku or Opus. So this CMD shell, I know it was, Claude has been curious about this and about the migration. Yeah, Manfred, I'm going to do a digest example a little bit later because that's something that it has been a little bit tricky to get AI to do the digest, but I think I got it, or at least it worked before I'm doing the demo live. All right, so yes, so Claude actually does recommend the multi-stage build. So using 3.11 with pip install, and then stage 2 would copy the dependencies into the runtime image. And Claude says it works perfectly, and then doesn't use the CMD shell script. So much smaller attack surface. So just looking at the diff, we have this line, which is the Python 3.11 dev as builder. And then we have the moving it into the minimal image without the shell. This is the dependencies that he mentioned. Yes, let's make that update. Cool. So now this one is a little bit of a simpler demo. The next one that I want to show, and we hopefully it'll be a little bit quicker, is this Vuln dashboard. So let me just link that to you here so you can follow along a little bit. So we have the Docker file. It's a more robust example, and this one is a 2-stage Node.js build. So there's a builder stage that compiles dependencies in a minimal runtime stage, and it has apt-get in both stages. So I want to see how Claude can handle this with all the context it has. I know that it kind of brought in a bunch of skills which I didn't tell it to do. So it might be a little bit different if you're using this in a different with a different AI assistant. So let me just copy this path. Can you migrate to Chainguard containers? My organization is still Chainguard. I do want to test this build, please. I try to be polite with AI, just in case. And I am running I'm running OrbSec in the background. You just need to have some kind of Docker equivalent thing running in the background. Let's see. Well, this is While this is going, maybe I should share something else. So with the Claude desktop, you're not sitting in the repo. So I was able to just kind of pull in the files to use this. And what I have set up is the 2 MCP servers here. So unlike the Claude code, which has the plugins, and the plugins are wrapped around those MCP servers, with the desktop, you go to settings, and I don't know if it's gonna, oh yeah, it does share it. So there's like the developer settings, and it tells me that these local MCP servers are running. And on the repo, I have an example of that JSON file, so you could have this set up. So the Chainguard docs is the one that I mentioned that's on Chainguard Academy, and the DFC MCP is the one that's on Chainguard Images. And then in this chat, it used these to do the migration and gave me a Docker file based on the, which one is this one? Yeah, so this one also gave me the multi-stage build of the one that I demoed just before this. Was it that one? It's using the Python. So let me go back to the other, what we have going in Claude, Claude code, Claude. Okay, so good news. The only dependency is express, so build essential is never needed. The migration will be clean. So it uses the builder, dev, runtime, and it's dropping group add, user add, and arg, app, UID, GID, and curl, and use CMD. And then it's going to pull Chainguard CGR dev and test. It's adding the test builds. And then it's creating this file. So let's look at this. So we have CGR dev Chainguard node 20.18 dev as builder, and then without the dev as the runtime state. And I'll say yes. All right, so now it's just going to use the free image instead of the tagged image, because I think I don't have that image set up in my org. So just make sure that you have the one you want in your org. The latest ones are public and free to pull down. Perambulating. All right. Well, that so what we're going to do next, which will be the last demo, will be going through the skills, which is some deeper migration guidance. As soon as this is done with the build. And if you wanted to take a look at that, the desktop config JSON, which is what I had set up in the Claude desktop version, that link will take you to that example. So that's the one that has the Chainguard docs and the DFC. And if you want to add any other MCP servers, like, you just could add them to that JSON file. And you could ask Claude for help with formatting that too, because I know, so you don't have to count all your spaces in your JSON. Cool. Okay, build and run both paths, and here's the full summary. So what's nice is that it explains a bit about what changes it made, so you're not kind of going blind here, and it gives the reasons, which is really nice, I think, too. And then so this is supposed to be all the plugin demo. I think Claude kind of jumped the gun. I've been working with Claude on this for a while, so I don't know if it's just my particular Claude is very excited about this. But next we're going to just install the standalone skills, and the skills are also in that repo, and they are under Chainguard code gen, and then there's these skills. Let me grab that link for you too. And then I'm going to just install those. So it is just these copy commands. And then they go to this file here. So, I mean, check your own path for that. And then you could always delete things from that file if you want to change something. Okay, and then we'll add, so there's this migrating Dockerfiles to containers skill. There's mapping container images to Chainguard skill, and then mapping OS packages to Chainguard. And these were a team effort, so thank you for folks across the Chainguard team for working on these skills. And then we have one more. All right, and then we want to, so we have a Debian toolbox Docker file, which we'll see to migrate with these skills. Okay. And then we just want to note that it installs curl wget and CA certificates. And then once we're through this one, I am going to do the digest example. And of course, your level of trusting Claude is up to you. If you want to say yes and don't ask again, or if you want to do one at a time, I think it's helpful to kind of just, while we're here together, to kind of look at everything, but do what you want to do. And yes, if you want to use agents and not even touch this, let them be autonomous. Please feel free to do so. So once we're getting errors. Oh, Chainguard base. Oh, just use Wolfie base. So Wolfie base is the free public image. Chainguard is if your org has it, the Chainguard base. All right, and then yes, the last one that I will show you after this. Okay, so now we're using Wolfie base. Confirmed all their packages have the same name as. All right, so that was actually, maybe we would have a more robust example. But they've checked the packages. We have some guidance on different packages. We even on Chainguard Academy, we have migration docs if you want to do it the old-fashioned way. And sometimes I like to do it the old-fashioned way so that part of my brain doesn't atrophy. But yeah, so here's a summary of what Claude did here. So they went from the Debian Bookworm Slim to Wolfie base latest. Chainguard base, if you have access to it, would also be fine. Wolfie is just the one that's free and easy for me to pull down without giving any org access. We're not going to test the build just to kind of give ourselves enough time to go through this last example. So this last example is a Python pinned Docker file. So there's a SHA, and this one was a little bit tricky. So I hope that we're able to do it and it works again, because it worked earlier this morning. So the digest, I mean, we have the latest and latest dev tags, and those are something that's like easy to use for demos and stuff. But if you wanted to use this and like not have your images changed, then we recommend that you pin your digest, and we have some tooling to help you with keeping your digest up to date as well. And this just makes sure that you're not we want you to use the latest one all the time, because that one we know doesn't have CVEs, but we know that there's lots of dependencies in your work. So we want to make sure that you're not kind of being bumped ahead of time. So I just want to show like that you could do this with AI as like a first pass, and then you could use something like our free tool Digestipot, preserve the digest bin. And then this would be like a way for you to kind of keep keep everything clean, up to date, not have any weird surprises, not have things break on you. I think those are all things to hope for. Cool. So I got the SHA. And so it's using the latest dev and the SHA versus like doing the 312. Like again, the latest and latest dev are the ones that are available. So here Claude created this examples Python pin dockerfile.chainguard. So it's using the SHA. Because 312 isn't on the public registry, I went ahead with the latest dev. Cool. And then I recommend that you try these out yourself. And then let me just give you a little tour of this repo. Okay, I get a little confused with the GUI here. This looks like it's not loaded in for some reason. Okay, right. So this is what we walked through. The README explains how to add stuff. I need to make this HTTPS. I'm sorry about that. So I'll just make an update to this repo when I get off here. And it gives you some like examples for quick start, and then some requirements. So you could use Docker or something like Docker to kind of run and test, do the builds through the running of the containers to make sure that things are working right. And then these are the plugins themselves. The skills are under the Chainguard CodeGen. So that's the plugin. these are the skills that I called. And then these are the Chainguard docs plugin. And then these are the example containers if you want to use them. They're pretty light container examples, but a few of them have everything to run. And then this is the JSON that I mentioned that you could pull into your Claude desktop. It could also be used with other tools. So the MCP servers, if you're not on Claude, might be more helpful to you. And yes, I think that's about everything that I wanted to cover here. I see that there's a few comments, and I'm happy to answer questions or take feedback as well. So Eric, sampling of my homemade Chainguard skills, chainCTL custom assembly, co-piloting BusyBox isms. That's a nice turns of phrase. chainCTL wish list to complete agent integration, Zendesk support access, and new image package fulfillment. Okay, awesome. I will share those back with the team. Are there any other questions? Or I take feedback as well. And I guess I wanted to yeah, so this is an open repo, so you could also file an issue if you have feedback. If you want to contribute, I would also take contributions. And yeah, is there anything, Manfred, is there anything else you're thinking about? More complicated digests? Awesome. So yes, feel free to come into this repo. Awesome. And then yes, if you want to get in touch with me, I am Lisa Ironcutter on Blue Sky. And I'll share my LinkedIn because I guess that's where social media is now. And that's me on LinkedIn. So thanks all for attending, and I'm excited to hear feedback and see how you all are using AI, and especially if you are a little skeptical like I am. So thanks again.